Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Founder2Founder by Hetz Ventures. Today we're going to speak to Gal from Aligned. He is the founder of Aligned as well as the current Chief Product Officer. His story is really interesting and we're going to basically be covering how somebody finds their co-founders. Let's get started. Gal, tell us a little bit about Aligned.
Yeah, hi Liz. So thanks for having me. So a bit about Aligned. Aligned is a collaborative workspace that helps sellers and buyers to close more deals faster. So essentially, we're allowing sellers and buyers to centralize their content, conversation, and process under a single source of truth for the deal. So I think we started Aligned 2 years ago. Yeah.
Wow. And I just want to say, as a side point, that Aligned has one of the best brands I've seen an early startup do. And if you have not checked out any of their stuff, go straight to their social media, go to their website. You guys are doing an amazing job on telling your story, even at these earlier stages. It's awesome to see. I usually use you guys as an example. Okay, so let's get into how you had the idea for Aligned and, what made you want to turn that into a startup.
Yeah, 100%. So a bit of a background and timeline. So first of all, Align took like 6 months of ideation in thinking about the problem we want to solve, how we want to solve it. Is it big enough? Is there a market for it, etc. And in June 21, I was ready with it, and I met Yotam Sela, our CTO and co-founder. And then a year after that, in May 22, we added Galaga, our third co-founder and current CEO. And what we wanted to solve is the sales process in B2B. So today's sales process is a mess. The buying journey is a mess. We wanted to solve the chaos in deals, essentially. So in B2B sales, you're seeing today a lot of content flowing through. This content is going through multiple forms of communication like Slack, GChat, WhatsApp, emails, phones. There are multiple stakeholders that are involved, and there's just no single source of truth for the deal. So nothing helps align the seller side and the buyer side, and that's why we wanted to start a company.
So is it something from your background that led you? I mean, I'm assuming you were working somewhere and felt this pain yourself, or maybe all three of you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So actually, I was a director of sales in my previous company. I saw their pains, especially one of my employees. She was working on a really big deal. It was like a $300,000 deal, and we had the upper hand. Yeah, we had the upper hand against our competitors, and it looked like a smooth sale. But I think 2 3 weeks into the deal, she came to me and she said, "Gal, I think we're gonna lose the deal. I need your help." And I didn't understand why. And when I researched, I realized that today a sales manager needs to be more of an operative manager than a salesperson because there's so much to orchestrate. And I said to myself that there's got to be a better way than emails and just, phone calls and such. So I quit. I took 6 months to research this and really build a thesis around it. And I thought, how can I embed my capabilities as a sales leader into a platform to help others? And that's how Aligned got started.
Wow. So I feel like so many of these great ideas start with there's got to be a better way. So I think that's a good sign. You're in a classic journey. So when you went through this process of thinking about this and building your thesis, and eventually you realized you needed co-founders, what started? How did you start that journey? What are some steps you took?
Yeah, finding a co-founder is challenging 100%. I think, if you look at I think it's the number one or number two reason that startups fail is because of a dispute between co-founders. So it's crucial to find the right one for you. I did something that now seems a bit old and obsolete. Today we would be using GPT, but back in the day I used Google. And I Googled it. I literally sat at home after I quit my previous position and I Googled how to find a co founder, how to find the right one. And I started researching it. I used my personal network and I made a list of all the people I know in the business and in tech. And I started calling them, letting them know about my intentions and see if, they can keep an eye and connect me to the right people. And then started the dating. So I dated four different co-founders, four different CTOs, each one of them for about a month and a half. And then I was tired of it. I couldn't find the right one. I said, okay, I'll go to a software house and they will build my MVP. And that's what I did. I got an offer, and at the last minute, I met Yotam, our current CTO and
Uh-huh.
co-founder, and I told him, "Look, I can't wait anymore. I've been waiting 6 months for this. I want to build the MVP. So maybe you can build it. If it will work, let's partner. And if it doesn't, I'll pay you what I would have paid the software
Right.
house." And I think a week to 2 weeks in, we knew that it's working, like full chemistry, was super serious about it, and we went
Wow.
to the founder route. Yeah,
Oh, that's very cool, actually. That's very clever to do like a try before you buy kind of thing for both of you.
exactly,
I mean,
exactly, 100%.
question, when you say that you dated, you were dating these four other CTOs, so what does that actually mean? Is it coffee? Is it projects? Like, it's always seemed to me that finding a co-founder is really dating. That's what other
Yeah.
people have told me as well. So what does the dating actually look like?
Yeah, that's a great question, Liz. So essentially, I use different platforms to find the right potential candidates. I wrote to them. I said, "Hey, I heard about you from so and so, or I saw your ad. I'd love to meet." And then when we met, initially, I just started telling them about the idea. I realized that it's not enough. So I said, "Okay, I'm in sales. I'm gonna build like a pitch deck." So I did like a sales deck, as if I was to pitch this idea to a client, and I went on like a selling expedition here. So I met with the co-founders, the potential ones, and I showed them my vision. Where is it going to go? The competition. Why I think it's the best idea. So that really made things much easier, because at first I saw that they couldn't see my vision.
Mm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then we spoke about what will happen if this would work, like what would be their expectation,
Yeah.
what kind of roles they'd like to pursue inside the company, how will the partnership look like. And then we just went to a trial. So we did like a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I made sure to meet them at their own homes. I wanted to see how they operate with their own families, in their own
Mm-hmm.
environment. How
Yeah.
does that environment look like? Because you can learn a lot about a person that way. I
Yep.
made sure we were going to plan things together. And when I saw the commitment, I wanted to see their hunger, how they deal with crises. Yeah,
That makes a lot of sense. I guess it sounds a little easier than dating for marriage partners.
yeah.
So that's good.
It's
um,
different. It's different,
so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's a different relationship for sure. So you ended up actually with three co-founders, and eventually Gal became the CEO. Can you walk us through, like, why three? How'd you end up with three? How did you kind of divide who's working on what?
When we started the initial discussions with Gal, we were already, Yotam and I, 1 year in, aligned. We already
Oh
had an
wow.
initial investment. We already had like paying clients, and a few tens or hundreds of active users. But we saw the market, we saw the category, and we wanted to build a big company. And we realized that we need like a third co-founder with us to make this a really
Mm-hmm.
big company. So I tried to find a CPO and a VP product before. My background is not in product, and I couldn't find someone that will carry out my vision. And so I said, okay, I'll do this myself until I find someone. And then I fell in love with the product, and I said, okay, like this is the biggest thing I can do in Aligned. So I wanted to focus on the
Nice.
product. Galaga was an advisor of ours at the time. I worked with him at the previous company, so I could vouch for him. I knew the dynamics between us. I knew the relationship. Um, and yeah, he had the same vision of building like a big company, and it just made
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Nice. So, speaking of sort of past experience, how would you say that your past experience as having managed teams before helped, or maybe it didn't, but did that lend anything to this search on bringing on your partners? Do you think there's something to that for other founders who have experience managing teams in the past?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think first of all, when you're looking for a co-founder, find someone who completes you. You want to have a person that has a different set of skills than you, so that they can always counter your thought and bring you like a different light to different problems you're trying to solve, bring different solutions to the table. I would say, and these are things that I learned from being like a manager, right? Um, I would say find a person who knows how to lead, not how to manage, but how to lead, and has successfully done
Yeah.
this before. So at first, I was looking at people that didn't have managerial experience, and you see it on them when we start working together, how they delegate tasks, how they view things. So you want to think ahead. That co-founder is going to be managing a lot of people in the future. If everything goes well, you want to make sure that they know how to lead, and it's inherent in within them, and they want to do it. Um, and another really big thing to look at is to find a person who understands the implications of going to a potential 4 to 8 year journey with this. So it's
Mm-hmm.
very different than just working for someone, right? Being a co-founder, not everyone understands that. So these are really
Right.
things that I took in mind when I looked for a co-founder based on my experience as a sales leader before.
Sure. What would you say are some blind spots or pitfalls you could see other founders falling into? Maybe you saw them or didn't see them. What would be some of those that you would warn others about?
Yeah, I think the main two ones I can think of is not building a founders agreement, like not signing on one, not
Mm.
discussing one. A lot of people say, hey, we're friends, we have good chemistry, let's just do it and we'll take care of it eventually. I think it's a big mistake
Yeah,
because, yeah, the founders agreements
it's like
idea
a
is
prenup.
just to exactly. It's a prenup, but in the
Yeah,
beginning of the relationship, not even before
right.
you get married. It's just on the first date, so called, um, and it just helps aligns on expectations. What if someone wants to
Yeah,
sell the company, the other one wants to stay? What if someone wants to leave? How much equity should be allocated for how many years? What if we disagree on
yeah,
the investor? So there are so many different things that could go wrong, and if you don't discuss them at first, it's very hard to understand the person's wishes, beliefs. So that's like the biggest
it's
mistake
true.
I saw.
Yeah,
And the second one is just going and settling with the wrong partner because you can't find one and you're eager to start. You're like, oh, I
mm,
won't be able to get funding because I don't have a co-founder. I must just get someone and I'll sort it. I'll sort it later, or I'll solve it later. That's a big mistake. I think that it's worth advancing by yourself if you can find someone, and getting someone later. It's actually easier getting someone later because the company is more cemented, it's more built, it has more presence, so more people want to join your startup that you're building. But yeah, never settle for a co-founder. That's like the biggest thing, one of the biggest decisions of the company.
yeah, that sounds wise. Um, so this is the first company you've started, Aligned?
I actually started a few companies, but never VC backed, so this is like the
Ah,
largest
okay.
operation I've built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were setting out about this, are there any sort of mentors or advisors that you look to, maybe not in a technical startup sense, but just in order to do this process? Like, was there anyone you turned to ask these questions, or like, how did you figure this stuff out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, when we started, I just took every concern I had in my mind and I made it into like a research question. So, a lot of the people you speak to that potentially want to build a startup, they'll say, "Oh, I want to build one, but I don't have an idea." So, instead of saying I don't have an idea, I said, "How can I find an idea?" And then I started using that as a research question. And then, how do I know that the idea is right? And how do I find a co-founder? How do I know that it's the right one for me, etc.? So I started writing all the questions I had and everything that was bugging me, and made them into research questions. And one of the things I did is finding a lot of advisors. So I had advisors that I knew. Just I went to my previous CEO and CMO and management at different companies I worked with. I went to every co-founder that I could find and I said, "Hey, I want to build something. Can you sit with me? I have some questions." I listened to podcasts exactly like the one we're doing right now. I researched a lot online. So Y Combinator has a great resource and it's all online. And we actually we got enlisted to an accelerator, which is we went to the AWS accelerator and the 8200 accelerator. And then we were surrounded with a lot of advisors and, yeah, people who helped us.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that network is really, really important for anyone who's trying to do this. Um, is there any one key quality that you think is critical when looking for a co-founder that's like, let's say, not the obvious, just something really that people might not realize is just important?
Yeah, I actually have a few, so if it's okay. So I think the
Yeah.
main quality is find someone who completes you. Like that's the most important thing. Each of us has strengths and we have weaknesses. Find a person who knows how to deal best with things that you are weak on and has a natural inclination towards those weaknesses. For him or for her, it's a strength, and then it's even easier to divide the roles between yourselves. I definitely say endurance and stamina. This is a long, long, hard journey. Things get broken on a daily basis, and you need to have a lot of endurance. I'd recommend finding someone who's stable in life, meaning like they have their family side more or less straight in. I can share with me that both Yutam and Gal are older than me, and they both had significant roles before, and building a startup is something they dreamt of, something they wanted for their own personal fulfillment, and it wasn't just like they were
Yeah.
trying to build a company and sell it after a year or two and make a quick buck. So that's really, really
Right.
important. um, be positive, like problem solver, because there's always going to be things that are going to break, but it's a matter of how you take it.
Yeah.
And be a leader. Make sure you get someone that was at least a team lead in his previous position. Yeah.
Nice. That's a great list. We should turn that into a checklist for people in the comments. Um, so, what would be your overall nugget of advice for entrepreneurs that are just starting out? Like one thing that just something to get them going.
Yeah, first of all, make a pitch deck for your partner. Don't just hold your vision in your
Yeah.
mind, write it down on a piece of paper. Google Slides is great, PowerPoint. Actually, try and imagine and manifest this thing to come true.
Yeah.
Take your
Mm-hmm.
time when finding a partner. Um, Make sure you can move forward without one and you're not like completely dependent on it, because then you'll make the wrong decision, find someone
Mm-hmm.
not for the right reasons. Use the accelerators that work. Even if you weren't accepted, try and reach out to the accelerators. Say, hey, I really want to find a co founder. Can you help me? Use the VC network. A lot of venture capitals
Yeah.
can help you with that if they believe in your idea.
Mm-hmm.
um, Put yourself out there. Don't be scared. Like a lot of people will go into stealth mode. There's no real reason to put their startup in stealth, but they'll do it anyway. And then they miss a lot of
Right.
the exposure that they can get from potential co-founders. So just make sure to
Yeah.
be on the Facebook groups. Make sure to be, everywhere that you can that, is surrounding potential founders. And the last thing I'd say is use the matching dating sites. Like I used La Startup.coil. You can use the Y
Mm-hmm.
Combinator matching app that they have. Yeah, these are the main ones.
Amazing. Yeah, that's great. Excellent tips, excellent advice. I have one more question. Maybe it's the juicy one that everyone's waiting for. But if you had to do it all again, is there anything you would change?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I don't think really change anything because I look at the result and knock on wood, things are going pretty well today.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
the only thing I would do a bit differently is I put myself and the company out there faster. Like we weren't focusing on
Okay.
marketing, on telling our story from the get-go because we were concerned that other people will, jump on the idea faster and such. Today, I think that we could have gone to market much faster, expose ourselves much faster. That's the only recommendation. Like, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, it shows. And again, if you haven't checked out Aligned, you definitely should, anyone who's listening, because it is, forget, like, even if you're not in sales and it's not relevant, just go watch their videos, go look at their material. It's awesome and very entertaining. So it's a colorful company and it really shows, Gal, and you guys are doing an awesome job.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thanks for being with us. Thanks for sharing your insight with us today.